So now you're watching live visuals from Kigali. Remember, as South Africa celebrates 25 years of democracy, Rwanda is commemorating the most horrific event that happened on the African continent a quarter of a century ago. And these are live visuals. We know that 25 years ago, this gruesome massacre of Tutsi people and in Rwanda, and we've had reports yesterday saying that France's role in the genocide, all these years now, remains in question. Back in 1994, the massacre claimed the lives of over 800,000 people, and most of them Tutsi and moderate Hutu. And this killing happened on this date, April 7th, 1994. So there are a number of questions surrounding this issue, the massacre, the genocide, and France's name is very much in the mix. So we're going to have more on this in a short while. We'll try to get you some live visuals on this very soon. So stay tuned to SABC News for this. In other news, transformation and an inclusive economy are two major issues in South Africa's politics. One woman is exploring the notion of how these two concepts affect the private sector. Her project is motivated by her passion for the Constitution of South Africa. To unpack all of this, we're joined in studio by Lwando Xaso. She's the founder of the Including Society. It's Including Society, isn't it?
It is.
You laughed when I said one woman. Is it a whole team, yeah?
There's a team. There's a team. And also, just to explain the name, it's called Including because of a professor at Gibbs that I work with, Maxine Jaffet, and she was saying that including has more of a sense of urgency and it's more mandatory than inclusion. You know, it's more of a directive, so it's called Including Society.
So it's not just semantics, yeah?
Yeah.
There's
a reason.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about this. So what inspired it?
I think in my professional life, I've worked in private settings, and also my most memorable working experience was at the Constitutional Court. I clerked for Justice Edwin Cameron. And I left the court, but I was able to remain on site as the trustee of the Constitutional Court. And now I am working with the Constitution Hill Trust on building a museum of the Constitution at the Hill. So I've sort of always navigated two spaces professionally, the private space and Constitution Hill, which is a public space. And I was always intrigued working at the Constitutional Court that the idea of, transforming the judicial system or the legal system was something that was more expansive than what we think of transformation in the private sense. So if you think of the legal system in South Africa being used to oppress people under apartheid, I think Nelson Mandela had in mind when he thought of having a new court that people are not going to trust this legal system going forward into this new democracy, especially to be a guardian of the Constitution. We need a new layer. And for me, the reimagination that you see in the Constitutional Court of what the justice system can be, it offers lessons on what meaningful transformation is. I mean, just in terms of location, just in terms of spatial design, and some of the judges who've occupied a seat on the bench, then you understand that the words of diversity and inclusion, it's more than just policy and practice. It's a lived experience. It's something that you also feel. So I was a student of that kind of transformation, and I think I started Including Society to use Constitution Hill, a place that used to be a site of human rights violations when it was the site of a war, the Anglo-Boer War, and then a prison. And now it's like the pinnacle of justice. So I like using the site to show people, especially execs from the private sector. I take them on site and I give them a whole history that this country is founded on exclusion. And we have evidence here of how you can go from exclusion into inclusion, how you can go from darkness to light, and I offer those lessons using the tools and the vernaculars, I say, that the court uses.
From reading your brief, and you talk about the issues in the private sector, these conversations are being had, but it's being had in the corridors, in the water coolers. It's not being spoken about in open, isn't it? You talk about professional spaces. I just want to read something from your brief. You talk about professional spaces that externally trade on diversity, but internally deny diversity and inclusivity. What do you mean by this?
You'll see that being Pan-Africanist is very en vogue when it comes to branding. We see it in television ads for corporates and for banks and that kind of thing. I was very intrigued by that. There seems to be a turn in terms of that kind of branding, and it's encouraging. But then you want to know, how does that translate internally? So I've had experiences where I've spoken to people who feel like, being a member of a certain group is the reason why, one of the reasons I was appointed. So they trade on the fact that you are different, that you may have a different background and that kind of thing, which is great, right? But what is disheartening is that once you are inside, you very much have to fit into the culture of the place, and you don't have the opportunity to influence the culture and to help remake the culture of a place. So it's something that Ta-Nehisi Coates says, you want to paint us all beige, in the sense that you are taken in because you're different and you have a different background, which is great for an organization. But once you're inside, they demand that you follow the culture, fit into the culture. That's why you have this term of cultural misfits, which is quite disturbing.
And you talk about business being done in the Western culture, in a Western manner. Break it down for us. Give us some practical examples and some of your personal experiences as well.
I'll tell you this. Another thing that intrigued me, a lot of Including Society was founded on just my empirical observations. Right now I'm in the process of working with Gibbs and trying to find out the science and the academia behind it. But empirically, I would see adverts, right, at companies saying that, we offer Mandarin if you want to do business in China, or we offer you, etiquette lessons for when you go do business in India. So you go learn about how a certain culture does business. What does a wink mean in India as opposed to, a nod, or those sort of silent ways of communicating. But we never taught that because we don't have our own way. I feel like we haven't really developed an authentic South African way of doing business, because it's very much, based on the fact that Black people or people with different Asians, Indians, or transgender people, that kind of thing, were excluded from how, this private sector was formed. So the way that we do business is very generic. So I really like certain cultures where they demand that you learn how they do business. And for me, it was quite something to know that South Africans are learning Mandarin to go do business in China, but it's hard for them to learn a language that's spoken in their own country. And we don't even have that as an option to do business in our own languages and having a translator. But, in my experience is that, I'll have legal matters that are in Afrikaans. This was back in the day when I started as an attorney. I'd get like a whole brief in Afrikaans, and I was expected to to translate it for myself. Fine, Afrikaans is one of the 11 languages, right? But it's almost accepted that we communicate either in English or Afrikaans. And I've had a lot of colleagues who will tell me that I was in a meeting and they spoke in Afrikaans the entire time, not even, concerned whether I understand, what was happening in the meeting. And when you walk out, they'll be like, did you get any of that?
Right.
Yeah.
We're fast running out of time. We can talk the whole day, so maybe we can bring you back in. But just before you go, just give us some dates in terms of these lunches, these conversation lunches that you're having.
These lunches are by invitation only, but the last one will be open to the public. You can email me on includingsociety@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at including_society. And then we can communicate through those channels if you want to find out more. Conversation lunches, literally food for thought, yeah? Yes, food with meaning. Thank you very much indeed. Lwando Xaso is one of the founders of the Including Society.